This is Dave Kraus. This is my final project for Motor Learning Winter Session 2019. The two categories that I've chosen for this final project are knowledge of results, knowledge of performance, and proprioception. The second category that I chose was Bernstein's degrees of freedom and freezing those degrees of freedom. For the knowledge of results, knowledge of performance, and proprioception, I'm going to demonstrate the air squat. For degrees of freedom and freezing, I'm going to demonstrate the proper way to teach a baseball swing. For the air squat, there are two techniques that I use to help athletes, especially new athletes, understand the proprioception they're feeling in their bodies and time and space. The first one is from physical therapist Kelly Starrett. It is a bracing technique that he uses to teach torque in the air squat. The air squat is the basis of all squats, whether it be the back squat, the front squat, the overhead squat, the Zercher squat. Everything starts with an air squat. The standard for the squat, whether it's competition or for safety reasons, is the crease of the hip will go below the crease of the knee. With Kelly Starrett's bracing technique, there are 4 cues. The first cue is to go back before the first cue is to have your feet at 0 degrees, shoulder width or farther apart. With the cues for Kelly's bracing technique is you are trying to spread the floor with your feet. You pretend that you have dinner plates on your feet and you're trying to spread the floor. You're not really pushing your feet out, you're just trying to spread the floor. What we're trying to do is we're trying to get the torque going between the knee joint, the hip joint. The last cue is for you to push your knees out. So by doing this, by pushing your knees out, your knees going over your feet, you are protecting your knees and your hips. When it comes to the knowledge of results, the athlete, once he understands the standard and does a correct squat, he will know this with his proprioception, just by the way his body feels from doing numerous repetitions that were correct. The knowledge of performance, he's going to hear if he's in a competition, he's going to hear that his squat, whether it be the air squat, back squat, front squat, overhead squat, a Zercher squat, is that repetition counts. So the way we teach a bracing technique, again, is at 0 degrees. At 0 degrees, when you're trying to spread the floor, you pretend your feet are on plates. So when you start doing that, you actually start building torque, and you take the slack. You're taking the slack from the knees to the hips. Let me turn sideways so we can get that. And like I said earlier, with the standard, the crease of the hips are actually going to go parallel or below the crease of the knees. So I'll pull my t-shirt up here so you can actually see what's going on here. So we go down into the air squat, and at this point, the crease of my hip is parallel or below the crease of my knee. And we come back up, and that is a proper repetition right there. The second technique that I use for athletes that have a problem getting down to the proper depth is this is nothing more than a resistance band. We turn the resistance band over like that, put it through the feet and up into the mid-thigh. And what this forces like the bracing technique, same thing, 0 degrees here, what this does is when you go down to the squat, a problem that a lot of athletes have, is the fact that their knees crash in because they don't know the proper squatting technique. So when they go down and those knees come in, that's not good for their knees. So what the band does is the band forces you to move your knees out, to push your knees out, because otherwise the resistance of the band is going to push your knees out. So by using the band, we go into the air squat. The band is going to force you to push your knees out until you get down to the bottom position. I'll do that again. Because if I didn't, the band would push my knees in, and this is not comfortable, this is not safe. And for different athletes, we have different thicknesses of the ropes. Would be for more the beginning athlete. And then we have this one right here. This is more for the stronger athlete, because there is definitely more resistance. But this whole time there's pressure being pushed to bring my knees in, so I have to push my knees out to So to reiterate, the knowledge of response, knowledge of performance, and proprioception, I used the two air squats, the one with the bracing technique, and the second one is the one with the resistance band. So now I'm going to go to the second category, which is Bernstein's degrees of freedom, and freezing those degrees of freedom. Like I said earlier, I'm going to teach the baseball swing by freezing the degrees of freedom within the baseball swing itself. So we're going to come right over here to the tee, the bat, the ball, and the plate. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get proper foot position. Once we get the proper foot position, ways I'm going to I'm going to do a proper swing, and then we'll go back to work from the feet up. Okay, to make all that action happen, what we're going to do is we're going to start from the ground up. We need to get proper foot position, so we want to get balance on the middle of our feet, the balance in the middle of our feet. And the first thing we're going to do to teach this swing, we're going to freeze the upper body, and we are just going to take the step forward. We're going to take a step forward till we learn to get the proper weight shift and to make sure we're on balance. And this is all we're going to do. This is all we're going to do to start. Now, there's not a certain number of repetitions that need to be done. This is going to be athlete dependent, but we need everybody to start here so they can learn to get their balance, because now they're shifting their balance and the balance point is actually going lower. The next move is going to be squish the grape, squish the bug. We're going to do the step and then the squish the bug. It's the same motion in golf, because what you're doing is you're going to end up exploding with your hips in the swing, in a throw, in a golf swing, but it's going to be step and then squish the bug. These are going to be, at this point, they're going to be two distinct movements, because that we're working on one thing at a time. Step, squish the bug. Step, squish the bug. Step, squish the bug. Now, when your athlete is getting competent in this movement, we can start, we do the step and the squish the bug, one right after the other. Step and squish. Step and squish. Step and squish. While we're still freezing the upper body, the next part we're going to do is the step, the squish, and then it's going to be the hip turn. This, as I said, it's going to be step, squish, hip turn. Step, squish, hip turn. These again are going to be three distinct movements. Step, squish, hip turn. Step, squish, hip turn. At this point, we're going to start using the upper body. We're going to do this, the step, the squish, the hip turn. We're going to throw the hands through. So it's going to be step, squish, hip turn, hands come through. Step, squish, hip turn, hand comes through. At this point, we're going to put it all together. We're still not going to have a bat, but we're going to put it all together so the movement gels. So it's going to be step, squish, come through. Step, squish, come through. Step, squish, come through. At this point now, I'm going to pick up the bat, and we're actually going to meet the ball, but not hit through it yet. We're gonna go step by step. It's gonna be step, squish, hip, through. Step, squish, hip, through. Step, squish, hip, through. At this point, we're actually going to now meet the ball, put everything together. So as you saw, we did the step, the squish, the hip, and the hands came through. One more. Okay, so let's quickly recap what we've gone over today. The first category was the knowledge of response, knowledge of performance, and proprioception. I showed the air squat. I showed the two ways that I use the air squat between the bracing technique and the resistance band technique. The second category we did was Bernstein's degrees of freedom and freezing those degrees of freedom. As I showed you, we went from the floor up. We started with the step to bug squish, the step to bug squish, the hips opening, the step to the bug squish, hips opening, hands coming through, and then we put it all together. And once again, this is David Kraus. This is my final project for motor learning for winter session 2019. Thank you.